All right, it's Tuesday.
Yeah,
It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's our
it's
favorite
our
day.
favorite day.
It's our
It's
favorite
our
day.
favorite day. You know, that's like gonna be the thing now. Now we have to start every show with "It's Tuesday, it's
It's
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
it's our
It's
favorite day,
Tuesday.
it's our
It's
favorite
our
day."
favorite day. It's our favorite day.
And
So
hey,
welcome to
everyone!
Connected Corner. Woo!
Right, we gotta tell them where they are now. It's the
Right.
connected quarter.
Right, exactly. It's so funny because we usually start with a song, but the "It's Our Favorite Day" is now taken on, right? So you guys are gonna you get used to it, and I want y'all to sing with us. Type it in. It's your favorite day. If Tuesday isn't your favorite day, let us know what your favorite day is in the comments. I'm your girl Tori Rose, the Connector, and this is the Connected Corner. And who else do we have here with us today?
Kiana B. Jones is here on this terrific Tuesday.
Boop boop. Hey, girl. Happy Women's History Month to you.
Yes, happy
You're
Women's History
definitely
Month.
making women's history. Thank you, thank you. You know, it's funny because I was reading about talking actually a comment about Rosa Parks today. You know, I get excited about Rosa Parks. And I think that most of us women who are out here making history don't even realize that we're making history. We're just getting
Mhm.
up every day, saying our prayers and trying to do the part that God has called us to do. So shout out to everybody, every woman out here, black, brown, white, orange, peach, and cream, as my son would say, who is making a difference and who is making history for themselves and their family. It's Women's History Month, and we salute
Yeah,
you.
we
Woo!
salute you. We have one of our connected corner friends, Mr. Henry. Thank you. Hey, say hey, ladies. Hey to you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Woo-hoo. Hey there, Henry. Tell us who your favorite woman in history is. And if you have any historic women in your family, we want to hear about it, guys. You can also catch this if you're not watching us live, catch it on the replay at youtube.com. Make sure you subscribe to the Connected Corner. Help us get our subscriptions up. Y'all subscribe to everything else. I know we are more important than Taco Tuesday notifications or Forever 21 or Fashion Nova, right? So
I
make
don't know
sure
why
that.
I knew you was going to say Fashion Over. I don't know. Them Fashion Over text messages, they get me excited. I be thinking somebody really texting me. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Nope. You're not going to get me. I don't care if it's 80% off. I'm not shopping right now.
Expecting to see good morning from the boo. Nope, it's Fashion Over.
Right.
Reading
It's Fashion Over bright and early.
nope, it's Fashion Over. Thinking that you scored 100 on your test. Nope, it's Fashion Over. So Fashion Over also has some extremely interesting women on their platform. So shout out to Cardi B, who has made women's history, regardless if you agree with her methods or not. She is definitely women's history as well. So Kiana, tell us who our sponsors are, and then I want to talk to this amazing guest for the
Yes,
evening.
yes, that we have tonight. And so we have our partners, Radio on Fire. So you can also catch the Connected Corner on Radio on Fire platform. In addition to that, we are also on WMEG Radio. And we are produced and come out of the studio of Nick of Time Media. So make sure you follow all of them on Instagram, Radio on Fire, Nick of Time Media, and WMEG Radio.
And Nick of Time Media is owned by a woman. So I love,
Yes.
and we both do. We appreciate her. She's amazing. She's also a career changer like us. She's done everything from being an astronaut to Susie Homemaker, and now she owns a production company. So we want to shout out
Mhm.
Nick of Time Media, who is also making women's history. Her story.
Yes, absolutely. And it's historical for us. Those that don't know, we gotta say it. We went to one of the oldest all woman public school in Baltimore. And so normally we celebrate this month. It's our Unity Month for Western Senior High School. Hello, Doves. We have to do it virtually this month, as we did last year because it was the onset of COVID. So shout out to all our Doves making history for Women's History Month. And we
Yes.
still gonna celebrate our unity.
Yes, we are. Shout out to you, your niece, right? We both had nieces that were spotlighted this month. And so
Yeah.
my niece, I know she wouldn't be embarrassed if I put her name out there. Your niece probably would be like, Kiki. And if you can share it if you want, if you feel comfortable. But my niece, Tiana Jackson, so I want to shout her out for being recognized in this month's laureate Black History Month campaign. Tiana has a write-up. She has a 4.2 GPA. She definitely says her ultimate goal is to give back to her community and help young people accomplish their goals and dreams. She is a rapper. She's an artist. I mean, just amazing. And she did this poem about light. And if you know anything about Western women, not only are we the best, we are the light. So we have light, we receive light, and let us give light. That's a part of our motto. So shout out to my niecey Pooh for being honored as this month's Black History Laureate.
Yes. And we're going to second that with our other niece, Ariana Moore, who was also in that article. She's a senior at Western. And so just, these young ladies making history. She also wants to go into education and be, a teacher and enlighten young minds. And so, if you haven't had a chance, you can go to Western High School Facebook. They have those articles listed there. And so read about these young ladies and how they are making history even at a young age.
Even at a young age. I love it. So let's talk about, I always think of this person, and I hate to be, selfishly reflecting and making it personal, but I just got to do it, right? I think about this gentleman, and I always say, I bet you this is how my son is going to grow up. Isn't that interesting? And so our guest tonight is the amazing author Squeaky Kirk. Let me get it right. Author Squeaky Kirk. If you're from the hood, you're from Sandtown, you just say Squeaky, right? So it's hard to say his whole name when you're used to saying Squeaky. He is the director of the Ruth M. Kirk Recreation and Learning Center. And the center is named after his mother, who was a historical woman in our community. We want to ask you guys to put your virtual hands together as we bring forth Mr. Squeaky Kirk. And we want to talk more not only about what he's doing, but his amazing and historical mother, Miss Ruth M. Kirk. Welcome to the stage, Squeaky.
Hey, welcome to the Connected Corner.
How you doing? Glad to be here.
We are glad to have you.
Listen, it's been so much happening, and we know you're always doing everything. And so thank you so much for availing yourself. The recreation center is named after your mom. It was opened with the goals of giving kids in the community a safe place to learn and play and to provide some basic family needs such as food, coats, toys, and hygiene. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to be your mom's son.
It was tough, because I was growing up, I wasn't always that nice kid, so it was really tough having a mother that was in the House of Delegates. She was in the community doing all these good things, and then she had this one son that was out there that was just doing the total opposite of what she was doing, so it was tough, tough on me, and I guess it was extra hard on her. I didn't really, the selfishness in me didn't really take in consideration like the pain I was putting her through, So tough life, tough life.
I'll let my son see this on the replay. I'm glad you mentioned that your mother was a delegate. She was Delegate Ruth M. Kirk, and was it the 39th district?
Yeah, it was 39th district, then it turned into the 44th district. 44. She did it for 28 years.
Awesome. And the clip that we have says will assume leadership of the Maryland Legislative Women's Caucus after the 1994 General Assembly, becoming the first African American to hold the powerful seat. This is important. Not only is it important to Baltimore history, important to women's history, but I'm going to tell you where I was when this happened. I was 10 years old, and I was at number 98 Samuel F.B. Morse Elementary School. And I was in the 4th grade, 1994. First of all, I was 10. I just aged myself and dated myself. But it was a monumental day. And the Black teachers were excited to tell us about your mother. But one thing I will say they didn't do a good job at was letting us know that she was from Baltimore. So all of us had to write about your mom and tell about, this accomplishment. But we didn't recognize that she was from where we were from. Do you think West Baltimore? Do you think too frequently kids are not taught about who is their local homegrown heroes?
Yeah, I think that's a big problem. We always think that we got to reach far and wide, to look for these heroes and stuff on TV. you got some of these kids got uncles, they got cousins that's doing the right thing. We gotta lower the standards of these heroes. Everybody can't be LeBron James and all that kind of stuff. We got to start looking for some of these guys who just doing the right thing. So
Yeah.
like my mom, she never even told me about this situation about her being the first. I never even knew any of this stuff. I just found it out maybe like I think Donnie Glover sent me the article one day. So it was like a lot of things my mom did. She never even mentioned it to me. Like I would hear about it from other people. So she would never even brag about it or even mention it again once it was done.
So it sounds like
I
she was a very humble lady, huh?
Yeah. I run
I
I
mean,
run into I run into chiefs in the fire department now that tell me like like my mother sent them to cows. I'm hearing so many stories about all these people that she put through cows. A guy was on one of my homeboys the other day was on my IG page and he was saying about $13,000 that my mom made sure he got to put him through electrician school and stuff. So I'm like, it's like I hear these stories daily now. I knew that she sent kids through school, but I didn't know the success stories that came out of her putting these kids to school. These kids are now like business owners and own barbershops, electricians, they plumbers, they delegates, they all kinds of stuff now.
yeah. So some of that is, I think, so listening and reading up on your mom, I agree with. We definitely need to tap in more and realize the history that we have, in Baltimore, especially, women who have, paved the way. Listening to what you're saying, it's that humbleness that at times I think, a lot of women sometimes have, or even when you're looking at somebody and your family, here you have this historical mom doing all of this work, 50 years of community service. And she's also cooking your dinner, washing your clothes, being mom. And so we don't always recognize the brilliance, of those people that are right next to us.
Mhm.
And so that takes me to one of my key questions. So we have Kiana's key questions. What does it makes me think about legacy. So if you knew and or now knowing like all that your mom did, what does legacy mean to you now? Does that change now? What does legacy mean to you?
Well, it's changed a lot because I mean, like one time I didn't really care about any of that. Like I said, it was just all about me and the life I was living. But like when I got into trying to help the people, it was all about like trying to keep my mom's legacy alive because a pastor told me like if you want to get over the pain, do what your mother would do. So that's how it all started, and it was a promise to her. But now I just got into the point where it was like it's not. It started out as my mom's vision, but now I can't stop helping the people. Period. Now I see why she did it so long. You know, because I could never understand. I'm like, damn, like why she run around like that all the time? People in the house on Sunday and all. It's like her door was always open. And I find myself doing the same thing. I'm at the wreck all the time. Sunday sometimes. Somebody said they need food or they need this, they need a coat or whatever. I find my way trying to open up the door to make things happen for them. And I'm like, man, it's the same stuff she used to do. Now I see that's a 24/7, 24/7 job. People need you 24/7, so there's no days off.
That's
So
very
that's interesting. Yeah, it's very true. And so I like a lot of times, and so we want to hear from you guys too. Drop your comments. What does
true.
legacy mean to you? And so that's important, especially because we're talking about history. We're talking about women's history, and in particular, your mom's history. And so that's exactly what she did. She set and put a stamp on the future, right? Like, so she did all of this for 50 years, and then we're looking 50 years later, 40 plus years later, that the work that she set back then is still happening. And that's exactly what, legacy is about. When you were running the streets and maybe not being so much the great son back then, but
Mhm.
she put that legacy in place. So now you're literally picking up her torch
Mhm,
now, you know?
mhm.
And shit, I
You
try to
know,
explain to people all the time what you see me do. It's not. I'm not making it up. I saw this
mhm,
stuff being done when I was a kid. When my mom ran the centers, I seen track and trail was backing up to Greater Mile Recreation Center, and they
mhm,
would unload New Balance off of that. New Balance and Kick cereal, right?
Mhm.
And New Balance was considered fishiest back then. Nobody wanted them. Now everybody in
Mhm.
Baltimore City wear New Balance. And I
Ain't that
remember they used to give them away for free at the rec center. So, and
eh,
Wow.
my mom had a garden for 44 years in back of my grandmother in them house in town, a block of Fair Street, right in back
mhm.
of Morning Star. 40 something years. Blue Chip In was started right there. The Blue Chip In program. I watched
Wow.
Schaefer. I used to come see. I took it for granted. I used to come downstairs as a little bad kid and see Governor Harry Hughes and Schaefer, somebody sitting in the living room. My mother, and they'd be like, "Ruth, what you need? Clean
Wow.
block and all that kind of stuff." So I watched all that stuff happen. So I know what should be done. If it worked then, it'll work now.
That's so
That's
good.
why
And
we that's why we had that garden in the back of the wreck. I didn't invent that. I just thought of it. I say I knew my mom liked gardens, so I'm like, all right, well, we got this space. Let's go ahead and put a garden back in.
what I
That's
love about it is that anybody knows me know I believe in God and trap music, right? It's about balance. And so I know God doesn't make mistakes. When I we moved from Payson Street to Winchester, right? And so growing up, there were names that we knew. We knew who Squeaky was, even if we didn't know who Squeaky was. We knew who Stokey was. We knew who Lucky was. We knew certain names, right? Because my mother was a cutie light skin. Kiki's mama was a cutie light skin. So we knew who you all were. We take for granted the fact that you had to be in the street, maybe in what's considered a negative way, but you had to be in the street even to get the streets buy-in. And so there is no question to me that everything, your entire path was the path God allowed for it to be. Because guess what? Your mom could have had a son, could have had descendants, right? Children who had no heart like hers, that had no desire to continue to keep the legacy or had no connection to the street. So it doesn't matter if you're doing the work, if the street doesn't buy in, if the community doesn't buy in, if they don't accept you. What do you
That's
think
right.
has been the hardest part with serving Saintown Winchester? You got the buy-in, you got the people, you get the resources, but what are the challenges?
Well, really, the area that we serve, my center's in Franklin Square, so we service everybody from Sandtown, Winchester, Franklin Square to all over. I had people call me from Harford County. I tell them if you can get down here, you got it. So
You
I
know, I
don't
call
turn.
it you.
We say we don't even do it by zip code. If you can get
Mhm.
there, you can get there. One of the hardest things is that, like I have a few connections where I can get resources, but I also feel like the people who are connected and really should be helping me with the resources don't. I shouldn't have to reach far and wide to get what I get, but I guess in their mind state that well, Squeaky's okay. People want to say, nah, but I don't believe in that. I believe that, I come from the time when I remember councilman made $21,000. Delegates made 28,000. It wasn't about the money. It was about the love of the community. You know what I mean? My mom worked 40 something years at Dunbar High School while she was still in the House of Delegates and still went and cleaned the lady house. My father drove out on Saturdays to go clean the lady house because that's what she did for almost 60 something years. And she just never stopped. The lady didn't have no help. She helped the lady till she died. And we thought it was the craziest thing ever. You're gonna clean this lady house and then you go down to the House of Delegates on Monday. But that's the type of person she was. So I feel like the connection is it's too hard to get a hold of some of these people that we should be able to get a hold of. And my mother used to always say, like, don't ever count money with people that don't dig dirt with you. And I always felt that. So I feel like, Baltimore City is not Idaho. It's not Utah, it's not none of that. So everybody should be getting their hands dirty to get that place together. And that's just how I feel. I mean, like, it's never going to get together from pushing pens and sending orders out from the office. We got to walk through them alleys. We got to walk through them streets. We got to go talk to these guys, meet them where they at. Because you can send out all the orders you want to try to say, oh, this is what need to be done, that need to be done. And it's just another plan going wasted.
That's good. I mean, I try not to make this about Tory's election all the time, but we saw that Kiana was my campaign chair. We had cousins who were murdered in the street. We couldn't understand, why is it that there's cameras, it's broad daylight, we know who did it, there's still no justice, and so we like to be kind of like the connectors and the bridge, the people who do this, pull the resources together. But through all of the pain and watching people just shuck and jive, it was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and run. The running for me, like you said, was never about the money. I had a very secure federal government job. I was making twice of what the city council person makes. And so, but you have people who have monopolized, right? They look at the money, but they look at the power and they figure out how to keep that power in their silo, right? Only benefiting certain groups of people. And it's hard for us to understand it because those people look like us. But we know all skin folk and kinfolk, right?
Mhm.
How do you continue to be successful and being who the community needs without getting caught up in those silos, those political silos of power and sometimes even corruption?
I think basically because when I came into it, they knew I didn't care. I came into it, I spent my own money, and when I reached out to people, they wasn't really trying to reach back. The ones that reached back to me, we still cool. So, like I say, I'm not about the color. I'm not about what party you for. I'm all about who gonna help. So I look at it like I'm dealing with good people.
Mhm.
I'm all about dealing with good people. I don't deal with jerks. If you want some old, well, I can't mess with Squeaky because of this. Nah, stay away because you bring the old me out. You know what I mean? So my thing is I'm on some whole other stuff. I'm here to try to help people. So nothing should want to stop you from trying to help people. So if you think you're hurting me by not helping me, I mean, you want to answer to the man upstairs one day, not me. He ain't gonna ask me, well, Squeaky, how many people did you help? He gonna ask you, why didn't you help him when you had the power to help him? That's a hell
Right.
of an explanation to try to give somebody. Say, well, I don't really like Squeaky. Okay, well, it ain't about Squeaky. Squeaky helping thousands of people. You gonna let one guy stop you from helping thousands of people, being a part of helping thousands of people? It makes no sense to me. I just want to. My biggest fear is that I may die one day and Baltimore still gonna be the same.
Wow. That's deep.
That is deep. And that's a personal thing, Kiana, right? We talk about that all the time. Key, what do you think is, and from a woman's perspective, some of the greatest challenges that stop resources from coming into the city?
Some of it from things that I think that, when we talk about stopping is just some of that of people's pride and egos at times. And I think it's about, those who feel like they should or want to get recognition. If you're putting people first, then the priority is getting the people what they need and not about the recognition for you getting the people what they need. And so when you have servants, like Squeaky Mom, like Ruth Kirk, and, others that are in the community connected and doing the work without having, being notarized or, being out in the front. And like you say, we're talking about a woman who volunteered, was a delegate, and still helping and cleaning people's houses, right? How many delegates do we have now that can say that they going after and, still cleaning somebody's house? And so what happens is, we don't have those humble leaders, people who are humble enough to not just look at titles, but look at
Mhm.
what's really there. And so that's the difference of when you actually have a servant leader and somebody who just wants to be in leadership, right? So I think having that service part of it and people focus makes the difference.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. So, outside of your mom, were there other leaders or people that you saw in action growing up, or even now since you're an adult, you look back and say, "I really like that person's style, Squeaky. Like that person job, like our job, or they move like I move." Is there anybody else, Squeaky, that you can attribute kind of who you are or your style to?
Well, back in the day, like I used to look at it as punishment because my mother used to make me walk with this guy on Saturdays, and it was on Pern J. Mitchell. I used to
Mm,
have to walk the streets with him passing out "Us Killing Us Equals Genocide"
Wow.
stickers, and I hated it. We would walk from like Curry Street to Emerson Village.
wow.
But when I think about it now, I'm like, this guy used to have a guy with him that would take down everybody's name who needed help, their address, what their problem was, and he took care of it. And I'm like, when the last time we saw that? When is the last time we really seen somebody that's in touch with the people like that? So I didn't appreciate it back then. But just thinking about it, I'm like, damn, I'm like, I wish this guy was here now. And that's how I be saying, I'm like, sometimes, because I'm like, some of the guys that's here that I know, that older guys, they worn out. They didn't put their time in, I guess they feel. So they hit me from the phone. They work with me through the phone, like, Squeaky, I'm with you. They let me know I got your back. Don't worry about it. Larry Young, everybody. So I got still a lot of guys that's out there that's still working behind the scenes that when I call on them, they'll answer the call when they try to make things happen for me. But like some of the young people, I like, let me see, I'm trying to think. There's quite a few. I see, what's the name? Well, George Mitchell, he's an older guy. That guy gone. That's my guy. George was like a real hustler. And me and him would talk. People didn't know we would even talk like that. You know what I mean? Like we talked before he even got the building. He told me he was trying to get that building. Called a few people. They linked up. George got the building. George was my guy. I looked at him like a big brother. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't move like he was moving because he had connects through the city and the state. I just had the state with me. But I mean, I just wish he was still here. And then I see like the young lady, what's her name? Matthews. She hustling every day too. You got Angie, Wanda, all those guys, all those little young ladies like Tori. It's like you constantly keep seeing, like right now, it's like, all right, the wrong people keep getting in office. And I keep saying it's like we can't keep getting beat like that. I asked guys several times. I always ask trick questions. If so and so was running against so and so, who would you vote for? And somebody always say the one that they think I want them to say. And I'm like, all right, well, you cutting yourself up. And I just tell them, this is how you vote against your best interest. Your kids get 5 book bags out here every week, 10 coats. You get hundreds of dollars in food every week. You get turkeys. You get toys. That guy you say you're going to vote for won't help me with none of that.
Wow.
I'm just trying to keep it real. And I'm like, you be done voted this guy in because he looked like us. And you're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're done. I'm like, don't vote against, you got to do your homework. Then they say, Squeaky, I didn't look at it like that. But I'm like, but you would have went and told 10 other people that think the way you think. And we just ruin ourselves like that. We got to start educating ourselves. We've been saying that stuff for years. How do we educate people on what people voting on, how they vote, what kind of interest they have into the community? Because some of these guys are getting in office, and the only time they've been through the community is when they campaign.
Right. And we know that's true. And we know Kiana personally, we thank God for the pandemic because we were raised to knuck if you buck, and so being a woman or not being a woman, I'm going to stand up for myself. And there was some very heated times on the campaign trail, especially when you are seeing what's happening. You're seeing, the powers that be knock on somebody's door and say, who is spineless enough to run against this person, right? And you start to say, well, wait a minute, you have no desire. You don't know these people. You're not from here. You're not raising kids here. These types of things. What is your real interest? And the only interest is to block the community person, block the person that could get the people motivated to actually want to be empowered. And so I know, I started the show with saying I need my son to be in here because it is hard, right? It's hard for a young boy to watch a man, right, come against his mother and not want to fight. It's hard to hear the rumors and to see people going against the hard work and not want to, do something. Josh is being raised in the streets of Baltimore, right? He might be little, but he gonna knock if he buck it as well. And so my question to you is, as your mother got older and as you understood, she's getting older, she's not going to live forever.
Mm-hmm.
How did you protect your mom? Because I'm sure there were people who didn't want her to continue the work that she was doing.
Yeah.
How did you stand
Well,
up or stand up for your mother?
well, she had a few incidents. She had a few incidents where, my mother was born with a bad heart, so she had a few run-ins where a few, young people had tried or whatever, and I just put a message out there one day. I called the guy and let him know, you know my brother and sister. You don't know me. I said, if I catch you, I said, if I have to come see you again, you'll never see me again. And that was it. I mean, and my mother called me and fussed me out something terrible. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, what did you do? What did you do? Because this guy was like, had called her and was like so upset that I had came at him in that way. But I was like, I don't play about my mother. I don't care.
Mhm.
And say, I got a hardcore aunt. My aunt Gladys, always with the hardcore one. She like, hey, he did what he's supposed to do. And that's how my aunt is, to this day. She
Don't
like
point at me.
92,
Tori
93.
pointing at me like I'm on glass.
My aunt Gladys don't play. You might have seen her had on the picture with me at the rec the other day. She the
Yeah.
truth, man. She don't play, man. It's like to this day, her
Yeah.
tongue is like a sword. She'll tell you
Yeah.
quick, don't
Mm,
F with my nephew.
That's right.
yeah.
You know?
And we need that. We need men who don't mind. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that I called you, Squeaky. Listen, we are supposed to be doing this pantry, this whatever is going on. I don't care about none of that. We know 300 people
Mm-hmm.
going to show up. And you said the same thing. If you can get to the food, it's yours. And so I appreciate the fact that there are men that still are men, right? Who
Yeah,
are not
no doubt.
afraid. And, I joke with my son all the time. I say, all right, I'm running again in 4 years. You'll be 15. You got the
Mm-hmm.
firsthand experience. You can be my campaign manager because I don't know too many more loyal than my son. I don't know too
Mm-hmm.
many more thorough than my son. And when I saw this kid knock 200 doors, he reached 200 before anybody else did, before I did. And I was the
Mm-hmm.
kid. And he would
Mm-hmm.
say, do you know who your current council person is? And they would say, no. He said, oh, you don't? Well, it's Leon Pinkett. But I'm going to tell you, if my mother was in office, you would know who she was.
Mm-hmm.
That's his heart, right? So I just acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
you. Thank God that your mother
I
has
I
you.
did all that. I did all that campaign with my mother and them for years. With the
Yeah,
Mitchell Young team, all that. I went through all that. I hated it. I mean, and we was doing it all the time. I mean, like it seemed like it's like the whole city was the district at that time. I'm like, good
Right.
Lord, man, is the day ever over? But
right.
I mean, at the end of the day, like like I'm just grateful that I had that experience because now
Mhm.
I know, like when I see people run campaigns now, and I'm like, my sister and them say the same thing. My sister and them is much more smarter than me. They think they are anyway, but they really are. But they always say, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? And I be saying to myself, why aren't they doing that? You do reach more people that way.
Right.
Sometimes we let technology and a new wave get in the way of doing things. I'm like, nah, you got to get back to knocking on doors and caravans and going out and meeting people where they at. You know what I mean? Because everybody not on the internet. A lot of people on the internet don't vote. All they do is talk trash on it all day long. They're not
Yeah.
going to vote. They want to get off the internet to go vote.
Hmm.
Sometimes you gotta meet people where they at.
Well, we had some wonderful comments. We like to, point out some of our guests and just going through some of the things that you are saying. On our Facebook, someone watching says that your mom gave you an amazing foundation. Henry said that leadership has to be embedded in your bones. And most certainly, I think part of for you, the foundation that your mom gave you was that leadership. And so it goes back to that legacy of, she gave you a legacy of leadership. She gave you a foundation of giving back to the community. And then you're still doing that today. And of course, Ms. Henry says men need to secure women, period. So we appreciate that as we, are celebrating. And so I think sometimes, and speaking to that comment, sometimes when you see A-type or strong women, I think what happens is there's a misconception that they still don't need their man or man to protect them, right? And so when you're saying securing and covering those women, whether they're in leadership, if they're out in the community and they have boots on the ground, regardless of how strong or A-type or, how much of a leader in the community they are, they still need the backing of the men in the community as well. And so we appreciate you being that person and stepping up, as well as many others who are out here stepping up, because that is definitely needed. And I think that there's a misconception about that. And so when we talk about, women in the community, this is Women's History Month. And so we're gonna we're gonna put another question up out there, and then Tori, you can ask. So we do our 2-minute question section, so we all can answer. All three of us can answer this question, but we all have to answer it within 2 minutes. So, how does Women's History Month resonate with you? So, how does this month, Women's History Month, resonate with you?
All right, I'm gonna start this time. Squeaky, you go first.
All right.
Okay.
So for me, I think women. You said me first. I thought you said Kiki. Sorry.
She can go ahead. She can go ahead.
It's our show. You're our guest. You go first.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute. I was like, is she telling me to go first? See, I'm so used to her. That's why she's not supposed to call me Kiki. Go ahead, Squeaky.
All right. I think it resonates with me, man. I think that we're missing a lot of strong women in our communities. Like when I grew up in my block, all those women were like historic. Like I could think about like to my next door neighbor, Miss Harley, we had Miss Franklin. It's like all the women in my block were like, like great moms, grandmothers, and all that stuff. I'm talking like Miss Spain, that was my homeboy mom. Then Miss Ursel, she helped raise me. Miss Weathers right next door, like my grandmother. Everybody on my block was like family. So all of those women were like historic women to me. You know what I mean? Like it was like everything was like family, and they took care of the neighborhood. A lot of them was on boards. They were on every board. There was like East West Raspberry Board, Greater Model Council. We don't have people that's willing to like put that work in the community anymore. Like I don't like to look far for heroes. Like I say, I had a good father. I had a good father. I ain't gonna lie. I like people Ali, what's Bob Marley. I like them kind of. But my father was like the best man that I ever. To this day, I call him right now. He's like, "What you need? What you need? I mean, if I ain't gotta ask, what you need? I'm 50 years old. My father still asks me what I need. So my mom would do the same thing if she was here. We need more women back in the neighborhood that just don't look at their kids as the
Right.
ones they got to take care of. Got to take care of all the kids.
I
I
love
don't like
that.
to hear nobody say, my kid okay. No, well, what about homeboy? His mom ain't right. Okay, well, I'll get them straight.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how we gotta get the hood back like that. And if
Mm-hmm.
we, like helping, that's the only way things gonna get better. That's how I see women in history. We
All
need
right,
better
that was
like
your
that.
2 minutes. So we're gonna rotate it. Look, it scared me. I don't have my little
Oh,
yellow
your
thing
time.
tonight, guys. I have a niece. My niece is teething, so everything becomes a sucking teething toy. So it's being sterilized. But all right, so each of us get 2 minutes on the same question, right? What
Yes.
does how does Women's History Month resonate with you? All right, so I can do mine less than 2 minutes, I think. Um, Women's History Month actually resonates with me differently today than it did when it first started or when I first, understood it. When I first heard of women's history, even going to an all-girls school, it was more of white women's history. And so I wasn't really banging with it, right? I'm gonna just be honest. It felt like a slap in the face to come out of Black History Month and go into White Women's History Month. So I ain't really bang with it. As I got older, I went to a HBCU. I studied history, politics, political science, things like that, government. I found a passion and I found a newfound understanding for the Black women who were not being understood, recognized, or even celebrated throughout Women's History Month. I think today, where we are, where we understand it took every woman, Black, brown, white, cream, green, to help move women's rights, to help move us forward. And I celebrate Black women. I do. I'm excited that everywhere I go now, if I'm looking for a Black manicurist, hairstylist, anything, if I'm looking for a Black woman that makes food for my pet, I can find that, right? So Women's History Month resonates with me in a sense of pride, in a sense of accomplishment, and the fact that we just still have so much work to do. And then the last part was something Squeaky said, oh, as a Black woman who ran for office, I will tell you, we are more likely to be burnt out. We are more likely to still have PTSD. Nobody will tell you about the person that climbed up under my BMW truck and did damage to my engine. Nobody will tell you about the people who were calling my son's school. Nobody will tell you about the person that was going through my trash. So if you don't know me or you weren't with me through that 19 to 20 months of aggressively campaigning, to understand that not only was I targeted, but I was victimized. And then I came in second. Cool, I'ma still do the work, but the light is on me to still be present. The light is still on Angie Wanda. The light is still on so many women to still be present. Do I not get a time to grieve? Do I not get a time to recalibrate? No, I don't. And so, to your point, yes, we need more strong women, but I love the fact that you identified the strong men. We got to have a community balance, because without you guys, we are just out here sitting ducks a lot of times. The women on my campaign team who came up to fight on my behalf. Most times I didn't even have men on my campaign team, right, Key? At one point we had 14-2, also represented the voting population. And so Women's History Month is a good thing. Let's rock it out. More Black girl magic. That's my answer.
So I'll be quick and just say, for me, I think Women's History Month, it resonates with me going to an all-girl, high school, being there. I think really it kind of opened me up to we were embedded with, only the best and being the best. You didn't really have that, competition. I think sometimes for those who, go to the co-ed school, you were really pushed to really be the woman, like, woman, hear me roar, type of thing, to be strong, to be resilient, in that. And so when we celebrate women's history, to Tori's point, understanding that it's all women, but it also lets other young girls or little girls know the possibilities, that they have, by highlighting women who have, made history, who have made their mark. I think it really motivates them to step up and do those things and make history for them as well. And so we give that opportunity and shining that light to let, young girls and little girls know, hey, you can be great. These are things that you can do. And then understanding the pillar of women in our history. We need to understand what the backbone looks like of our communities, and women are a huge part of that, and they need to be recognized for that.
You better go here 1 minute and 30 seconds. Practice getting we don't know what we're going to answer all the time, but we practice trying to say things in 2 minutes or less. I'm proud of you, girl. Come on, Key, bring it in.
Because I don't normally do it that fast, right? I'm practicing.
And
like, you gotta have those elevator speeches ready.
Gotta be ready. So before we move the next segment forward, tell us again where the rec center is located, because anybody who's watching, I want them to hear the address, how they can find you, and how we can support you. We got a couple of more questions, but we want to make sure that people hear this part. So where are you guys located? How can we support, and what help and resources do you guys need?
We're right off of Mountain Fayette Street. It's 122 North Vincent Street, zip code 21223. It's off of the 1600 block of Lexington Street. Little playground back there right in between Gilmore and Mount. It's kind of hard to find, but you gotta look for that lime green building with that mural put on the side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see the garden right there. It's not up and running right now, and resources are right now. We're going to start back up with the GED program soon. That's what I'm going to focus on when we finish with this pandemic. I let it go for a few years, but I think that was a big part of what we were doing. So I want to get the education part back up on. We had camp going again this summer, and after school for the kids. So we provide snacks daily. We provide snacks. They get lunches Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and all the families get food. So right now, our kids not really wanting for nothing. Like we try to take care of all their basic needs. But I mean, I always tell people anything you want to give is a blessing to us. So I don't like to even be particular about one thing.
Mhm.
Like to say, like, oh, okay, well, just bring me this. I'd
Mhm.
rather not do that. Whatever you say you
Mhm.
want to bring, you know, we accepting of it.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to send you, uh, I'm gonna text it to you in a few seconds, the name and address of my school. My high school, we received 180 coats. I have been working with this organization called Operation Warm. And, it's high school, so we expected a certain amount of coats in certain sizes, but we got some sizes that are smaller kids. And
Mhm.
Imma do you like you do me. If you can get somebody up there to get them, y'all can have them. So we'll slate, 30 coats just for you guys, and, I'll
I
send you
got
the sizes, I'll send you the name of the school, the address, and then you can go, what's the day? Tuesday, so any day this week or next week, just let me know when you're gonna come into the building, and I will make sure, I have somebody as a point of contact for you to get you those coats. We wanna make sure those babies have everything they need. And even if the
you.
coats are
Okay.
too big, they can wear them next year, right? Because you know how
Yeah,
Maryland
no
weather,
doubt.
we always gonna have cold weather.
Yeah,
So
we'll put
I
them right in
wanna
the closet for them.
hmm?
Yeah, we'll put them right in the closet for them for next year.
Awesome,
We
awesome,
do a coat drive every year, so we'll definitely hold on to them.
awesome. Okay, cool. Kiana,
Okay.
another
Well,
key question.
yes. Well, we're coming near the end of the connected corner. And so we want to make sure, again, if you guys are watching on the replay, you can still answer the questions, drop your comments down. And so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you get the notification so you know when we go live. So, one of the things we've been talking about, we definitely talked about women. Again, we're connecting that to the community, and so this is something just shoot out there we all can answer. What are two ways, Squeaky, you believe people can get connected to their community? And so we know you saw your mom out there in the community, even though you might have did it begrudging as a
Hmm.
kid, but now that you are that person and that leader, what are two ways that you believe that people can get connected to their community?
I think that like basically, like some people just need to come back to the community where they're from, where you most comfortable at. Because even if you don't like me or you don't want to come where I'm at, there's still kids around that area that you can deal with. You can adopt a kid. Say, look, I want to do this for your son. I want to do this for your. You know what I mean? Some of them don't even have to go outside. And you can do that in your own family. Some of them got nephews and nieces that they need to take under their wing, so that they don't come outside and be a problem to everybody else. Because I deal
Mhm.
with some kids all the time that I know their uncles or their aunts, and I can't believe that I got to straighten them out at the rec, or my man Carlos got to dig in their tail. Because I'm like, man, that's your people, right? Like, yeah, yeah, well, they don't listen to him. I'm like, oh, okay, we gonna listen around here, So, but if some of these guys and girls just took care of their own nieces and nephews, took a more of an interest in their little cousins or whatever, and said, look, man, I'm not going to, my kids is doing okay, but I'm not going to let you fall off either. Take a little extra interest into them. Then we ain't got to keep worrying about, say a prayer for my family. Things happen. Now, don't get me wrong. But sometimes we know some of these people, what's going on. And then we say, he ain't deserved this. She ain't deserved it. All right, well, but some things I'm telling you, when I got shot, I was in so much stuff. My sister used to call me all the time when they hear gunshots going off around the way. Call your mother, let her know you okay, right? So imagine that being the pressure I'm putting on my mom every time she hear gunshots. And I ain't gonna lie, sometimes it was me. But at the same token, or my crew, my guys. But when I got shot, I didn't even want them to tell my mother. No, my mother did. My mother soldier. She walked in the hospital, was like, they told me you was breathing. I'm all right. Not a tear came out of her eyes. She said, I expected it. She like, long as you breathing, I'm good. I'm like, damn. And that's how I felt. I'm like, I didn't even want her to know, but she was that hardcore. Like, my mother's a strong lady. I had put her through so much. All the other nights, she cried many nights. She cried all her tears out for me. So, it wasn't no more tears when it actually happened to me. You know?
And there's so much
So
power in what you're saying. I'm sorry, Kiana. There's so much power in what you're saying because that is the people don't understand the dynamic of Baltimore. Let's just call it what it is. And
Hmm.
we've talked about that all the time. There's a difference from being from here, and it's a
Hmm.
difference in not being from here. And it's unfortunate because while people will say, well, you guys are proud of, the drugs or you're proud. No, we have our own heritage, we have our own culture, we have our own legacy,
Hmm.
and we operate differently. And so for anybody who's
Hmm.
watching this, understand the journey. Understand his mother was making Black history. She was making her story. She was
Hmm.
passing policies and laws. She was a legislator. And her son is out in the street, right? At the time, not enhancing those policies, not moving the community forward, but being a detriment to the community. Then, bam, life happens, God speaks, and things shift. And then you walk upward into your kingship, right? Now, the same people who were a detriment to the community are the people who are the enforcers and the support beams of our community. And so that in itself is historical for Baltimore. It's historical. And so you have too many people who come in and out of our city who make a change here or try to put an imprint there, but they have no understanding of the culture of our city.
Hmm.
And to me, that is why the city is going to continue to fail. I saw the baby, the 10-year-old who got shot, the young girl, and she said, Mommy, why would they shoot me? This is a 10-year-old who likes to read, who likes to, play with dolls. She's not into video games or any of that stuff. Her aunt is a friend of ours on Facebook. So I've been watching and praying for the baby. 10 years old, buying a bag of Cheetos,
Hmm.
and so that child, though, could very well turn around and be the next Ruth M. Kirk. We don't know, but because
Hmm.
Baltimore is like that, it's cyclical. And so while we're trying to move forward and get rid of our ugly past, we have to acknowledge who and what we are. And Kiana, you talk about that all the time. Kiki is racist against people who ain't from here.
I am not.
Discriminatory.
I,
You'll cut a person
well,
off and be like, well, man, where you from? Oh, okay. You ain't from here. Oh, okay. You ain't from here. Oh, okay.
um, and I'm welcoming to my city, and I am now. My issue is when they try to speak on things that they can't speak on. And so, I'm quick. Like, I have friends from all over, from different states, from different countries. I call them implants. And so, when there are certain conversations that happen, and then of course, I've worked at the Johns Hopkins, and being in certain departments, and you'd be surprised sometimes because of the positions I was in. I was the only person from Baltimore, like originally from Baltimore. I've worked in an department where it was only 3 of us in that entire department that was originally from Baltimore. We had people from all parts of Africa and India, all these different places, New York. And so it's funny because when we would do team building, sometimes we would do the little scavenger hunt and it would be like, some questions would be about Baltimore. And it's just interesting when you hear other people's perspective. They don't know the Baltimore that we know. You know what I mean? They know the Baltimore because you got into a Live Near your work program and it looks great because they moved you into this one section of the block, where they're rebuilding just for you. And so, at times, yeah, I could be a little bit assertive about certain things because I'm from here. My family has roots here. We've worked here. We've built. And how dare you come in and have an opinion about what's happening here? So, I'll tell this one story. I'm sorry. It's just, I have to tell this story. So this one, since Tori brought it up and how I would do my non-Baltimore people. And so we had this one department I worked in. I think I had my first couple years I happened. So we did this team building. It was a scavenger hunt. And so the scavenger hunt was we literally had to go around the city. So it was the outer loop and the inner loop. And we had to go throughout the city and gather these different things. And and then we get back to the place, where we were gonna, have lunch and see who got the most things throughout the city. And so, of course, me being who I am, I'm like, oh, this is great. I know where we're gonna go pick up some of these things we need. And so some of it was, I remember particularly, it was like you had to get like a birthday card, like little things that you might have at your house. You couldn't necessarily go to the store and purchase it. And so I was like, oh, I know a place, like we can go in this one area. We can go to my grandmother's house. She lives at Hilton and Franklin, and we were able, I went into the house, I got like a birthday card and several other things on the list. And then it was like we had to take a picture with firefighters in front of the fire station. Wow, of course, we can go right here to the fire station at Bloomingdale and North Avenue. And so, it was very interesting because while they were sitting in the car outside my grandmother's house while I ran inside.
Yeah, call it what it is. Sitting in the car scared.
Yeah, in the car scared. And when I came back outside, they were like, yeah, so these guys, they were coming up to the car. I said, oh, they thought you were here to buy drugs. That's what it was. let me point it out. Oh, they thought what it's called copping. Yeah, because there's white people that come to my neighborhood to buy drugs. So they thought you were here to buy drugs. You're safe. You're good. They're good guys. They're with me. And so you want to talk about Baltimore? Let's talk about Baltimore. Let me take you to Baltimore. So then we didn't park in front of the fire station. I parked over right next to the library, right, Walbrook Library, and I made them walk across the street to the fire station, right, because we're gonna get this whole experience up here, right? And this is the 90s. This is the mid 90s going to 2000, right? Oh yeah, we're gonna get this whole experience, Baltimore experience, and y'all have so many fond memories and comments about Baltimore. So, they were shook by the time we got back for lunch. they were completely shook. They were in there telling, the supervisor bosses where I took them. Yeah, they had a whole different experience from the other folks who went on the outer loop of the Beltway. Like we gonna get off 95 and ride up Caton Avenue. That's what we gonna do.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I love that story because I've been in rooms oftentimes as the youngest person or the woman at the table, and you hear such, racist or limited, comments. I had gotten into an altercation with somebody about Gilmore Homes. And it was like, well, why would anybody ever want to live there anyway? So when they were displacing those 100 families and, I'm on the phone with Lucky and we're calling HUD and everybody's trying to figure out, well, you can't pick up families and take them to the county and drop them off of a $1,000 voucher and tell them to go ahead and be okay when some of these families have been here for 3 and 4 generations. Grandma now can't get access to her pharmacy, can't get access to her medical care, those types of things.
Right.
And there are people, because they don't understand the culture, who would say things like, well, who would want to live there? And it's extremely offensive. It is not the fault of the individual that the city has done wrong by them, that the federal government has done wrong by them, so it's those things. So I love that story. And I always laugh when people tell the story. Squeaky, before we go, is there any final stories or anything that you want to tell us about anything? You can talk about your experiences, if they're similar, how you interact with people. Share something with us.
Along the lines of what y'all were just saying, like a lot of my cousins from out of town, they like to talk about the wire and the corner and kind of stuff like that. I mean, they love it. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of my cousins asked me, did I ever see it? I still have never seen it. I think I've seen maybe like 2 episodes of The Wire and maybe like a few of the corner. I'm like, it's different when you lived it. I said, that stuff was, I saw one episode and I heard them howling out one of the names or something that was being sold. I'm like, man, back in them days, it was 10 times worse than what Hollywood showed you. Me and my guy Carlos, we go in the house and jump from the steps to the hallway because there was no, you know how they say the vestibule, all
Mm-hmm.
straight down.
Mm-hmm.
And and it was like houses like we would go in there. It was like you would rather go outside. It was so bad. You would rather eat out back with the dippers. So when I see people talking about how bad drugs is, no sir, we on our way because it's nowhere near like it used to be. It's nowhere near like it used to be. You know, crack is basically almost gone. I ain't gonna say it's completely gone, but I mean you don't see, you know, like the overdoses up because of the, you know, what they're putting in it, but
Yeah.
you don't see what we saw.
Yeah.
You don't see what we saw. It was pretty bad. I mean, like you don't remember. It was
Oh,
bad. Mountain
listen,
Fayette, where this rec center is at right now, that was the heroin capital of the world.
that's what I was
Not the
going to
city,
say.
not the city. More that's where all was sold at. It was like the airframe up there every day.
Yep.
The
Mm-hmm.
helicopter would be over top of your head. You could see the man had Nikes on.
Yep. Yep. So we again, I started on the side when you guys side, Lemon, Vincent, Boyd, Booth, Payson, right? Bon Secure. My
Hmm.
mother's best friend lived 2 houses from the store at Monroe and Fayette. So as a little girl, we got on the bus, we would catch the 51, especially if we were coming from like Winchester or Mondawmin and down. And
Hmm.
I can remember when gold puffy coats came out, those first down coats, and they were shooting,
Mm-hmm.
people were stealing coats. I can remember getting off the 51 three specific times at the corner of Baltimore and Payson, or Baltimore and Pulaski, and stepping over dead bodies. I can remember the sheets, right? Because this was the time in the 90s when New York guys were coming down, right? And that migration was happening. And when people say about the wire, my son's father is not from Maryland. His family is from down south. And that was the first thing his parents asked me, is she a part of the wire? Does she know the wire? I've never been able to watch it. Friends, uncles, aunties that were murdered, people my mother hung out with. And I've
Yeah.
shared this story before. My mother was parked on the corner of Cumberland and Cary back in the day when they had, the little Corsicas. My mother had a brand new Corsica, and somebody jumped in her back seat with a gun. And
Hmm.
so you start talking about the trauma, and I know Kiana has her own stories because she's 9 years older than me. We're in the same family, but she's 9 years older. So if I was 10, she was 19, right? She was fully of what was happening. And so I thank you for sharing that because people get it twisted and they want to harp on the negatives because the negatives push their agenda. They
Right.
don't talk about all of the money and resources coming in that they've mismanaged or that they've
Hmm.
allowed to stay in the same circles. They don't talk about,
Mm-hmm.
schools that are closing for poor management. They don't talk
That's
about the
true.
policymakers that are looking the other way because it's not in their best benefit. So thank you so much
Right.
for that out.
Yeah, we just got to understand this about leadership. Leaders point fingers at the people, but you're in leadership, right? You're only as good as your leadership, and it's no different with the schools. It's like, how do you blame students for the condition of the schools? They're the students. They're not in charge, and so it's
True.
no different when you're talking about leadership in a city. You're in charge. So if the city is raggedy, it's because of you, not because of the people. It's because of the leadership. Because there are things that can be put in place, and we know this, right? It's not rocket science. What people need, people are telling you what they need. You're not providing what they need, and that's the bottom line. And so we are thankful for you coming on and sharing your story, thankful for you, sharing your mom's history as, a woman who was a pillar in the community, definitely 50 years of community service. She most certainly deserves to be honored and recognized here tonight. And we're thankful for you for continuing her legacy. And keeping on the work that she's done. And so, we definitely want to, give you a hand clap and a whoop whoop,
Appreciate it.
all of that, because, it's people like you that are needed in the community. And so we thank you for all the work that you're doing.
And let me
Awesome.
say this before I close out, because I always forget this. Let me give a good shout out to my wife, Shawnette Kirk, because she's always holding this house down while I gotta get to run around. I'm running around and I can't take what she do here lightly, you know. We got
Right.
4 little ones here,
Mhm.
2 with disabilities. This is
Mhm.
EJ. So that's
Oh.
what I normally do. I come home and I sit with him, take care of him, give her a
Mhm.
break or whatever. But
Mhm.
so
Well,
her
and we
work
met
is
your
cut out.
wife. She's amazing, and
Yeah,
we try not to bring people's personal lives up unless they
yeah,
open the door. But since you opened the
yeah,
door, you said, "Hey, girl."
Right.
yeah.
She's an amazing woman.
She probably up there somewhere. She probably upstairs. If she ain't fall asleep, she should be on it. She may
Well,
be
tell
Right.
her
watching.
You better have shout her out. We talking about women's
Yeah,
history.
yeah, yeah. She got on.
She
This is
making
her.
history.
As a matter of fact, she did make history because, like I say, she is the one that stepped in when she saw a problem with the kids, and that's how we wound up getting them. It's a short, long story, but it's too
Mhm.
much for here. But
Oh, that's beautiful.
that's how we wound up getting 4 kids. Because she saw a problem, she stepped in, and long story short, they're ours now.
That's
Oh, that's
wonderful.
beautiful. Women making moves. Listen, your mother had 7 kids. You are the baby, right?
Yes.
Come from a long line of just an amazing woman who showed love and raised 7 kids. Now you're in a situation of reciprocity, giving back to the babies. We love it. We honor you. We thank you. We thank God for your mother. Anybody who's watching on the replay, drop replay in the comments. If you missed any parts of the show, go back and listen. You can find it on youtube.com at the Connected Corner. Subscribe. And we just want to say thank you. Let's put our hands together and thank you, Squeaky, for coming on the show.
I
Yeah.
This
appreciate you.
Tuesday where
Thanks a
the
lot.
connect.
I appreciate y'all.
No worries.
Thank
How
you.
can we find you? Are you on Instagram and social media? Can we share that before you go?
Yes. With social Facebook is what Arthur Squeaky Kirk,
Mhm.
and I think the Instagram is the same thing. If not, I'll
And,
send it to you.
and if
I
it
think it's
isn't,
the
we'll
same
drop
thing.
it
I
in the
can.
comments.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll drop it in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Definitely drop it in the comments so we can connect with you. And
All
then
right.
Tori, tell us how we can connect with you.
So find me on social media. On Instagram as Tori Rose the Connector, as well as Facebook as Tori Rose the Connector, or just Tori Rose. If my personal page is full, follow me on the Connector page. Also, look out for things that Kiana and I will be doing to uplift and empower women throughout the month of March. Key, how can we find you?
You can find me on all social media platforms as Kiana B. Jones. And you can find us at the Connected Corner on Facebook and Instagram. And so make sure you subscribe, let us know where you're watching from. And we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And stick with us. We'll see you next week as we continue to honor more historical women making moves for Women History Month. Thank you
Yes.
and God
Thanks a
bless.
lot.
Good night.
Take it easy.
And good
See you
night,
later.
guys.
Hey, Archie.